Chapter 9. The upper atmosphere of Vestan Reach peeled away into the cold vacuum of orbit as the two shuttles climbed, their thrusters burning with slow precision. Through the forward viewport of Shuttle 1, the fractured light of the dying sun caught the ledge's hull. Dark, jagged and weathered, like an old blade floating against the stars. Inside, the silence was thick. No one spoke unless they had to. Rook sat strapped into the command seat, his helmet resting on his lap. His fingers tapped once against the alloy armrest, then stopped. Across the narrow cabin, Malin scrolled through diagnostic entries on her slate, the glow casting a faint green sheen across her visor. Everyone on board still felt the dust clinging to them, caught in the folds of their suits and drifting in the corners of their thoughts. Behind them, the Marines stared out through narrow portholes, rifles cradled in their laps. Even Hale, usually quick with dry humor, said nothing. They were processing what they'd seen, what they'd walked through. A colony with no bodies, no remains, just ash, just the soft whisper of what used to be people. The comms crackled once. Rook's headset clicked on. "This is Caro. You got a moment?" Rook responded without turning. "Go ahead." Kel's been going over what he pulled from the main diagnostic core. He's asking if he can assist Malin once we're back aboard. No strings, just cross-analysis. There's a hell of a lot to parse. Rook looked across at Malin. Her eyes were already on him, reading the question in his expression before he asked. "He's solid," she said. "Knows the gear. If he's willing, I'll take the help." Rook nodded, keying the comms. "Approved. Malin's on board." "Copy that," Caro replied. "See you on deck." The comms cut out. The shuttle adjusted pitch as the ledge grew in the forward window, hangar bay doors already yawning open. Lights lined the internal docking throat like landing beacons, and the ship's IFF pinged clearance for both vessels in tight formation. The descent slowed. Rook glanced down once more at the dust on his gloves. He rubbed his thumb over it. Even the decon mist used to decontaminate the suits on entering the shuttle couldn't remove it all. It still lingered. A moment later, the shuttle touched down with a soft clunk. A hiss of pressure followed as seals engaged. Across the bay, the Langley's shuttle mirrored the movement, its sleek hull gleaming faintly under the ledge's hangar lights. Rook unstrapped and stood as the rear ramp opened, airlock pressure equalizing with a breathy sigh. The Marines moved first, followed by Malin and the tech officer, both carrying sealed cases. Rook stepped out last, the edge of his boots scraping against the deck as he walked down into the light. The bay was quiet. No applause, no questions, just the distant hum of the ship's systems and the soft clatter of returning ghosts. The air inside the Kensington Ledge's hangar bay remained unnaturally still after both shuttles had landed, as though the ship itself was holding its breath. Crew moved in practiced silence, offloading gear from the landing ramps, tagging sealed crates and personal suits for decontamination. No words were exchanged unless absolutely necessary. Most just wanted to be out of the hangar, away from the weight of what they'd brought back. Sergeant Hale led his Marines through post-mission checks, each of them still in their suits, their faceplates streaked with dust that would be scrubbed and logged before the hour was out. Rook passed them as they filed toward the decon line, offering a brief nod. He said nothing. He didn't need to. The way they carried themselves, quiet, tight-shouldered with barely restrained unease, said more than any report. Down the line, Langley's engineer Kell and Malin walked together, heading toward the lower decks with a hard case between them. They didn't speak either, focused entirely on the contents of the Vestan Reach data core. The case was black composite, heavily shielded and locked to both their biometrics. It had been extracted from the diagnostic core deep in the medical wing. Now it sat like a ticking device in their hands, heavy with the weight of answers no one wanted to hear. 2 decks down, in a long and low analysis bay tucked beside the ledge's old cartography suite, Kell powered up the data integration terminal while Malin began prepping the sanitization buffer. The room's overhead lights cast everything in a pale blue hue. Racks of dormant slates lined the walls, long since replaced by the central projection ring that dominated the center of the room. Malin keyed in her access code and ran a fast integrity sweep on the core. Casing is intact, no bleed-through. Temperature fluctuations during extraction were minimal. Shouldn't be any data corruption. Kell didn't look up. "You think it'll talk?" "It'll talk," she said. "The question is whether it lies." He gave a short, humorless grunt and slotted the core into the central reader. Lines of code spilled across the projection ring, flickering rapidly before slowing into stable columns. Malin stepped forward, fingers dancing across the interface. She bypassed surface directories and dove into system architecture. Data structures unfolded like roots under glass, hundreds of files cross-referenced against colony logs, medical records, environmental stats. But something was wrong, not with the system but with its shape. She frowned. These pathways, they've been redirected. Kel peered over her shoulder. Redundancy loops? Not quite. She rotated the schematic, highlighting a deep-level junction that branched from the main colony core. This isn't a fail-safe. Someone rerouted power, intentionally away from the main grid. Kel leaned closer. Where? She tapped a line. It lit up crimson, curving downward into the schematic's lower tiers. Here! Looks like it's being routed down to the substructure you found before we left. Overlay those schematics with this display. It's way deeper than any of the public floor plans. He whistled. And there it is. Malin zoomed in, peeling away layered data protections. The overlaid schematics showed different architecture, older formatting. Lines for ventilation shafts, emergency service conduits, sealed access doors. No status indicators. No logs. It's sealed off, she said. Power routed to critical support systems. Ventilation, minimal lighting, but no environmental feeds. No live monitoring. It's like this whole section was amputated from the colony's nervous system. Kel scanned the metadata. Redactions in the logs, he muttered. And here, logging just stops. No shutdown commands, no error states, just silence. Malin stepped back slightly, arms folded. They were hiding it before everything went silent. Kel looked up. How deep is it? Almost a kilometer. Whoever built it didn't want it found by accident. He turned to face her fully. So now we have two questions. What's buried down there and who buried it? Malin didn't answer. She didn't have to. Both of them knew what the company was capable of. The evidence sat humming quietly in front of them, buried in redirected power lines and schematics scrubbed of purpose. We flag it, she said at last. Mark ingress points. We'll need a breach plan. Kel nodded once. I'll get the models running. We'll map ventilation access and potential weak points. Up in the hangar, as the shuttles were being cleaned down and the floor crews filed through their final reports, a lone technician sat at a control station flanking the containment corridor. He wore a grease-smudged jumpsuit and a tight brow, his attention fixed on the diagnostic display tied to the secure bay. The same small vibration anomaly he witnessed hours before had flagged again. Minor, nearly imperceptible, just like before. He tapped a few keys, pulled up the sensor thread, and leaned in. A low tremor at 2004 GST, slight harmonic pattern, identical to the previous alert. He turned, caught sight of Rook and Caro stepping off the gantry mid-conversation. Rook looked focused, Caro looked grim. The tech opened his mouth, thought better of it, and looked back at his screen. He toggled the system log, intending to check the prior anomaly from 3 hours earlier, the one he'd filed quietly, just in case. It was gone. He blinked, refreshed the screen. Still gone. No entry, no signature, no trace, like it had never happened. He frowned, leaned closer, checked his access logs, even dug into the subsystem cache. Nothing. His fingers hovered over the internal comms key, then hesitated. He opened a private system log, wrote a new entry, flagged it encrypted under his own access credentials. Just the facts, timecode, pattern, missing logs. He paused before closing the file. Then he added 2 words. System compromised? Then he locked the file and closed the console. His reflection stared back at him in the darkened screen, and he said nothing. The walk from the hangar to the upper decks was short, but neither man said a word during it. The quiet between Rook and Caro wasn't the easy silence of old friends. It was sharper now, drawn tight around things neither had permission to say out loud. Rook led the way through a side passage not commonly used, bypassing the usual flow of officers and technicians. The corridor lights flickered as they passed, a symptom of the ledge's aging infrastructure, or perhaps a ship tired of keeping secrets. He stopped at a sealed hatch midway along the starboard flank of Deck 4, an old security office, retrofitted years ago as a secure briefing room. He keyed in the override manually and waited for the heavy door to cycle open. It hissed, then groaned slightly on its hinges as it unlocked. Inside, the lights were already set low. Either the system remembered his preferences, or someone else had used the room recently. Either way, it suited the conversation about to happen. Caro stepped in after him and let the door seal shut behind them. The room was plain. Just a narrow table, 4 chairs, a dead wall display that hadn't been updated in years. The recycled air smelled faintly of burnt plastic and industrial-grade coffee from another life. Rook didn't sit, neither did Caro. "You're going to tell me what the hell is going on," Caro said, voice even but firm. "And you're going to do it now." Rook studied him for a beat. "Start with what you think you know." Caro didn't hesitate. The colony was never just a colony. Civilian infrastructure, yes, but built to spec. Too uniform. Too efficient. The power grid's intentionally looped, and the data choke on local systems? Engineered. No open feeds. No public archives. Every line scrubbed before it left the atmosphere. That's not poor planning, Rook. That's controlled isolation. Rook said nothing. Caro took a step forward, jaw tight. Then there's what we found below, the sealed substructure a kilometer down, completely hidden from the master schematics. You don't bury something that deep unless you want it forgotten. He paused, measuring his words. The company knows. They always knew. Vestan Reach wasn't a failure. It was a test of what, I don't know. But whatever they put down there, they've lost control of it. That's why we're here. That's why there's no trace of the colony. No distress call. No survivors. Just dust. Still, Rook said nothing. He turned slightly, facing the dark display on the wall, his eyes unfocused. Caro pushed on. I've seen this before. Not exactly like this, but close. Fringe worlds with mirrored setups. Discrete installations with too much shielding. Then they go dark, and nobody talks about it again. You think that's bad logistics? He shook his head. There's a pattern, and if we've stumbled into one of their buried projects, then we're already on borrowed time. Rook turned back toward him. His voice was low, almost tired. You're saying you think they'll come back to clean up the mess? Caro's eyes hardened. I'm saying I think they're already en route. Not another science crew. Not a relief vessel. The kind of ship that shows up when the company wants to erase the chalkboard. Black Fleet. No transponder. No logs. Rook exhaled slowly. The weight of it all pressed against him in a way he hadn't allowed himself to feel since the drone had been locked in containment. Now it pressed deeper. Caro crossed his arms. We need to start asking questions now before someone gives the order to shut us down. You think they'll shut down the ledge? Rook asked. Caro's reply was instant. If they think you know too much? Absolutely. Langley, too. They'll scrub everything. They'll spin it as a drive failure, a radiation burst. Anything they want. Nobody's going to ask questions about 2 undersupported vessels lost in deep orbit over a dead colony. He stepped closer, voice lowering. So I'm asking you, what are you hiding in this ship? Rook stared at him. I know there's a sealed section near the hangar, Caro continued, with guards that don't rotate, armor that's not standard issue, power routed directly to environmental control but no system access. That's not a weapons bay. That's a vault. Silence again. Rook looked at him for a long moment, measuring, calculating, resisting, and then something inside him shifted. He needed an ally, someone who wouldn't run to command, someone who understood what it meant to operate in the gray zones between protocol and survival. He nodded once, slowly. You're not wrong. Caro's jaw tensed. So what is it? Rook stepped toward the door. You want the truth? You're going to see it. But once you do, there's no walking it back. Caro met his gaze. Then walk me in. Rook keyed the door open and motioned for Caro to follow. Because now, the only way out was through, and they were already halfway buried. Rook didn't speak as he led Caro through the spine corridor running beneath the main flight deck. The lighting here was dimmer, deliberately so. Overhead strips spaced further apart, leaving long shadows to pool across the bulkhead seams. It was the kind of place most crew avoided unless ordered. It carried the atmosphere of a place not meant to be seen. Caro followed in silence, his boots ringing dully on the grated floor. He didn't ask questions. Not yet. Whatever Rook was about to show him, he could feel it in the air. Heavy, electric, final. They turned a corner, past a long row of locked storage doors, and reached the reinforced section near the far end. 2 Marines flanked the door, armored in heavier gear than anywhere else aboard the ledge. They straightened at attention when Rook approached, eyes tracking him but not reacting otherwise. Open it, Rook said. The guards keyed a sequence into the side panel. A dual-layered seal disengaged with a hiss, followed by the heavy groan of composite armor plates sliding aside. The inner door revealed a narrow vestibule, dark and cold, lined with additional environmental seals. Rook stepped through first and gestured for Caro to follow. Behind them, the door sealed with a boom. They entered the containment chamber in silence. The room was cold, colder than any other deck aboard the ship. A precaution. Not because the object inside needed it, but because no one was sure if it helped. At the center of the chamber, behind a triple-layered pane of polymer shielding, sat the drone. It hovered motionless inside its restraint field, sleek, pitch-black, matte angles broken only by sharp veins and the outline of what looked like compressed sensor ridges along its underside. It was unlike anything Caro had ever seen. No company signature, no human design cues. It didn't look built. It looked grown, or forged from intention alien to every manufacturing blueprint he knew. He took a step forward without meaning to. His voice, when it came, was rough. "That's not from here." "No," Rook said. "It's not." Caro stared at the thing in silence. It didn't move, didn't pulse, didn't blink, and yet it felt awake, like a shark under ice. His stomach turned. "What is it?" "We're not sure," Rook said quietly, "but I can tell you where we found it." He stepped to a control panel and brought up a projection. Star fields mapped out across a spherical grid, with the Kensington Ledge's last assignment marked in a dull orange arc. I was given clearance to run an exploratory mission into Sector 33D Dead Zone. No known colonies, no shipping routes. This was where the drone we destroyed above Vestan Reach was sending its signal. Caro folded his arms. "What did you find?" "At first, not much. We ran silent through an asteroid field that wrapped the inner edge of the system. Radiation levels spiked the moment we passed the midpoint. Off the scale. Whatever's out there, it bleeds energy in ways we don't understand." He flicked through the data logs. By the time we reached the core of the system, our sensor array was overloaded. We saw it only in silhouette. A forward base. Massive, constructed at the heart of the asteroid field. Hooked into the larger Manhattan-sized rocks. Docks lined with ships, not ours. No heat signatures, no comms. Just silent shapes. And then the drones launched. Caro's jaw clenched. "How many?" "We counted 4. Maybe more. Only one approached us. It didn't power weapons. It just drifted in an arc." "And you captured it?" Rook nodded. "We sent out Harrow 1 to retrieve. Silent run." We mirrored its arc, and Bresh attached a small EMP device to the outer casing. After activating it, we hooked onto it and pulled it back here. Caro looked back at the thing hovering behind the shield. "Why didn't you tell Command?" "I did. Vulcan knows. She told me I shouldn't have brought it back." Caro turned. She was probably right. What else did she say? Rook's expression hardened. "Not much. She mentioned something about crossing a Secatoan line or boundary, and how we have some treaty, but then she clammed up and didn't say anything else." The silence stretched. Finally, Rook keyed another display, this one darker, more obscure. Files that weren't in any company archive. I started looking through old probe logs. The company launched 23 deep-range recon drones in the last 32 years, all toward the outer rim of the Mino sector. Most were low-investment, AI-guided, disposable. Mineral scans, asteroid drift data. "Standard resource scout missions," Caro said. "Except 17 never came back, and 5 weren't in the official records at all, tagged under names like Asset Echo or Pioneer Variant Drift Class." Caro stepped closer, staring at the pulsing map. "Black Ops." "They were launched," Rook said, "but never acknowledged. The last known ping from each of them, just before they vanished, was in the same general direction, 2.1 light-years beyond Vestan Reach." Caro absorbed the weight of it, slow and grim. "They've been poking something out there, something they don't want on the books." "Something that noticed," Rook said. The two men stood in silence, the hum of the containment field buzzing faintly in the background. Caro's eyes never left the drone. "Malin knows," he said finally. "That's why she pushed so hard for access to the colony's imaging gear." Rook nodded. "Yes, she's been in from the beginning. All my bridge crew have. We didn't know what we were looking at the start. Now it's turned into this." A long moment passed. Then Caro exhaled through his nose. He didn't speak for several seconds. "This goes beyond clearance," he said at last. "This goes beyond the company. If they're doing experiments or whatever this close to a line, if they've triggered something they don't understand, or they've broken an agreement with something." Rook cut in. "Like you said, we probably don't have long, and you're right. They'll send someone. When they do, this drone, the data, all of us, we vanish." Caro straightened. "Then we don't give them time." Rook met his gaze. "You want in?" Caro gave a short, sharp nod. "We need to learn everything we can from the drone. We need to make a move on the colony and map the sublevels. Burn every hour we have left to find out what the hell they were doing down there." "No red tape," Rook said. "No delay," Caro agreed. The faint whine of the containment field rose a decibel, like the drone had heard them. Neither man flinched. There, in the cold belly of the ledge, two commanders, now conspirators, stood against the silence that had swallowed a colony. The truth was buried, but for the first time someone had started digging. The briefing room was stark and utilitarian, ringed with recessed lights that hummed quietly above the wide hollow display table. 30 minutes had passed since Rook and Caro had stood before the drone. Now they faced the next phase. Commander Rook stood at the head of the table, flanked by Captain Lath, Commander Caro, Lieutenant Bresh, Science Officer Malin, and Kell, Langley's engineering specialist. The air carried tension, but it was tightly leashed. Everyone here knew they were operating off the edge of the official playbook. Malin took the lead, fingers flicking across the hollow display. A schematic of Vestan Reach's buried substructure filled the space above the table, a multi-layered layout rendered from decrypted colony data. "It's not storage," she began. "Not emergency shelter. This installation was designed to operate independently. Power cycling, active pressure regulation, internal environment control. Everything about it says active facility, not abandoned wing." She swept to the lower quadrant. "And this section here, see the geometric change? That's a retrofit, structurally different. Added later, well after the colony was completed. It's deep, far deeper than the original excavation permits would have allowed." "Which means someone hid it," Caro said flatly. "Correct," Malin said, "and it's not just omitted from maps. It's not even referenced in the company's build archive. Whoever added this section didn't want it found." Kell leaned in, tapping a pulsing red segment of the map. "This is a lateral maintenance duct. Too narrow for people, but it'll take a small recon drone cleanly. We use it to scout the interior. Non-intrusive, low EM signature. If the feed comes back green, we consider how to gain full access. Right now, we don't know if there's even a viable breach point. We get eyes first." Caro nodded. "Langley has next-gen recon units on board. Quieter propulsion, longer-range sensors, better thermal resolution than the ledges. Let us deploy the drone, minimizes risk, maximizes return." "Agreed," Rook said. Kell continued. "We also found power lines terminating at sealed junctions. This place wasn't decommissioned. It was sealed deliberately. This wasn't an evacuation. It was containment." Captain Lath looked to Rook. "Ledge will maintain high orbit. Langley handles the drone. All internal comms routed through local storage only. No company relays. Not until we know what we're sitting on." Malin added, "If we confirm viable access points with the drone, we can bring in the plasma pulse cutter. It was originally intended for structural recovery work, but it's precision-rated and could widen ducts or drill down depending on what we find." There was a beat of silence. Then Caro said, "Do we bring that object down with us?" "Shielded and sealed. The gear down on the colony site is better equipped for what we need. I want to open it up and see what makes it tick. And down there, with the tools available, we might have half a chance." Rook nodded. "Yes, but on a separate shuttle. No proximity to the breach team. Keep everything isolated." No one objected. The meeting began to break up. Assignments handed out, departure windows clocked. Rook waited until only the senior leads remained, then said, "We're going to find out what's down there. Let's hope we get some answers, and not more questions." The room was silent save for the low hum of the slip drive's containment shell. A deep, vibrating pulse that ran through the bones of the company shuttle like a second heartbeat. It was sleek, surgical, built not for comfort but for control. 2 days out from Vestan Reach, and it moved like a blade through the void. Sand sat alone in the command alcove, eyes fixed on a display no one else aboard was cleared to see. The lighting was low, the air recycled to exact parameters, and the chair molded perfectly to her frame. On the screen in front of her, frozen mid-frame, were two figures, Commander Rook and Caro, standing in a sealed containment bay deep within the Kensington ledge. The frame caught the moment just before the drone came into view. Rook pointing to a side panel, Caro's expression dark, caught in a shadowed line of disbelief. Sand didn't move. The feed was quantum synced, layered beneath every ship system on the ledge, unregistered, invisible, imprinted into the architecture during its last refit. No bridge crew could access it. No officer could disable it. This wasn't surveillance. It was something more, deeper. A company eye with no eyelid. The door hissed open behind her. Volka entered, stride sharp, posture perfect. But when her eyes landed on the screen, she stopped dead. Her boots clicked once more, then silence. "That's the ledge," she said flatly. San didn't turn. Correct. That's Rook and Caro. Another pause. San waited. Volka's voice lowered a fraction. That room isn't on the ship's recording grid. No, San said. It's not. Volka crossed the floor in 2 strides, the edge of anger slipping into her tone. Where did you get this? Who authorized? San tapped the control pad with one gloved finger. The image changed. A new feed, different room. Volka's private office. The lights were low. The screen showed her standing by her desk, head bent, reviewing documents on a hard copy slate. The camera was not from the ceiling, not from the slate, not from any angle she recognized. It simply was, as if the walls had opened their eyes. Volka stared at herself on the screen. San didn't look up. Would you like audio? Volka said nothing. San pressed the pad again. Her own voice played back, quiet and flat. Interpretation belongs to the company, she said. He brings facts. We decide meaning. The silence stretched. Volka's shoulders stiffened, but she didn't speak. Her mouth was pressed into a thin line. The color drained from her usually sharp expression. For once, she didn't look like a liaison. She looked like someone who'd just realized the walls could whisper. San finally turned her head, just enough to glance at her. We are not here to oversee, she said. We are here to remember, to record. When the company makes a mistake, it doesn't bury it. It audits it. Volka found her voice. It was brittle. That's not what this is. That's not what you showed me. San turned back to the screen. The frozen image of Volka remained. Still standing, still reading, still unaware. It is exactly what this is, she said. You just never expected to be on the other side of the feed. Volka looked like she might argue, but there was nothing to say. She stood there a long moment, breathing shallowly, the faint hum of the slip drive filling the space where her certainty used to be. San shut the feed down. The screen went black. Neither woman moved for several seconds. Finally, San spoke, voice still calm. We reach Vestan Reach in 34 hours. Let's see if we can do better. She paused, tapping her compad, and opened a direct channel to the bridge. Situation is escalating. We need to shave time if possible. A voice responded after a second's delay, crisp and composed. Understood. Slip envelope's already stretched, but I'll see if we can push .02 above current drift. Any more than that and we risk slippage. San ended the call without acknowledgement. Volka turned and walked out, each step sharper than the last. San sat alone again, watching.